You're listening to The Dealmaker's Edge with A.Y. Strauss, diving deep into stories behind commercial real estate leaders. Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Dealmaker's Edge. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Norman Bobrow, who's president of Norman Bobrow Co. Inc., one of New York's leading independently owned, tenant-focused commercial real estate brokerages. A third-generation real estate professional and lifelong New Yorker, Norman launched the firm in 1980 with a clear mission to represent tenants exclusively and deliver results with precision, integrity, and relentless advocacy. Over the course of his career, he's personally negotiated more than 3,000 leases and overseen the acquisition of more than 300 properties nationwide. He's built a fabulous reputation as someone with integrity, with deep expertise, and someone who has also built a great team. He's invested in many deals personally. He's invested in a ton of relationships and built a great culture at his organization. And he's been a good friend to me personally. So I'm really excited for this conversation where we talk about his life's journey, his struggles from an early age, how he's dealing with present day issues, how he's navigated, how he's grown his career, and life philosophy of giving back and being philanthropic and never making it about yourself, making it about other people. So here we go with the episode. I hope everyone enjoys. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dealmaker's Edge. Today, we are very excited to be joined by my good friend, Norman Bobrow. I think we know each other for close to 17, 18 years, really going back. So you've tolerated my presence in your life all these years. Thank you for that. And I'm honored you took some time to share your story, which is a terrific story, which is always constantly growing and evolving. And for people who don't know you, and obviously they've heard your bio, but maybe you can give sort of a background. We'll go back to your roots for a few minutes, and then we'll start to gradually bring to present day, if you don't mind.
I'm born in Queens, one of four. Two brothers are physicians. My sister was a computer programmer. I was dyslexic, totally couldn't read till the 8th grade. I was in private school. After private school, luckily my parents saw that there was a problem, and I was very lucky. At one point, my parents were saying, "Okay, we got to set Norman up in a store," and they changed their will to give me more because they thought I could never survive. I was very interested in horticulture. I went to college for horticulture, where I got into the college because my brother-in-law wrote the best letter, and I did well there. I left Alfred because of anti-Semitism, and I always say God didn't want me to take this path, and I made a left turn. I then came here, worked in a major public company, starting at the very, very bottom, called Syntex Corporation, built the Winston Towers, learned, but I suddenly saw that it was impossible for me to make money unless I traveled to other states, and basically it just didn't seem to be like a great way for me to grow entrepreneurially because I didn't have the money to really build. My father was already retired. I was born when he was 40, so when I was 20, he was 60. I joined the National Guard, avoiding going to Vietnam. I went to college here, but at that time, college was crazy because of the Vietnam War, and I ended up dropping out of college here again after I transferred from Alfred, and I went to college at night 12 months a year to get that piece of paper, which my cousin Josh Musk suggested I do, and I got it in 12 months, going 12 months a year to get that piece of paper that I have a college degree, which I actually do value it because it gave me a lot of insight to certain areas like money and banking, advertising, marketing, different courses that I took. So I don't regret anything, but I also was on the National Guard 1 weekend a month for 6 years. At the same time, working in the construction for Syntex in New Jersey, building the Winston Towers, the Palisadium 200 Tower, and the 300 Tower. I saw that they wanted to send me now to Florida, and I said, you know what? I think I need to make a change, and I went to a headhunter who suggested, why don't you try brokerage? You seem to have actually, I started with another firm called IEC Properties and was building up in Rockland County. I rented all of the space very quickly, and they gave me a pat on the back. When we start the next building, we'll give you a raise. So I suddenly said, this is not going to work. I made them, a couple of $1 million on this industrial park because I rented it to office tenants. So I went to Paula Burns, who was then a top person who placed people, and she placed me and said, why don't you try brokerage? I said, I can get you a job with all the big firms, but I think you should try brokerage. And I took the challenge. It was a big success. I worked for a very successful broker, Richard Schlesinger, who was doing monster deals. He had a very small office, very low budget operation, and I was his top broker. I felt the time was for me to go on my own because he was very limited in his whole operation. Just he had one person who covered the entire office and the phones, everything, and just didn't want to really do more than his own business. So I opened up my own shop and basically was booming from there. People joined me, and I grew, and now I'm like 25 brokers, leasing brokers. At the same time, I also was involved with investments. My father was I come from a real estate family where my mother's siblings all were in real estate. There was the Musk family. And I got involved in experiences where my father would do small syndications. And I was lucky enough to watch him participate in those syndications and do my brokerage business and also invest at the same time. I follow only a few people out there. My biggest follower was Warren Buffett, just giving me certain advice that he gave to everybody out there, which was like the most amazing. And I was lucky enough actually to go visit him, where he said, don't leverage yourself more than 60%. Don't buy companies that you think are going to just be involved in one state or one continent. Go to like Coca-Cola. It jumped the waters to different continents. And so, just learned from him and my dad and seeing all the situations of family members that had made it and lost it and what happened, why they did that. And basically have grown to be a very busy brokerage firm in the city of New York, where we do over close to about 250 leases a year. But we're not a factory. We give each tenant personal care. We look to do a deal, looking for every aspect how we can make a very good deal for the tenant side. Now, my firm is a little different than other firms, like a Newmark or Cushman or CBRE. These people represent both sides, JLL, both sides. We represent the tenant. Unless it's a family property that I'm working on, we really don't take on agencies of other people. We just, you can, just like an attorney, when he takes on a case, he says, I want to make sure there's no conflict here. And so we took the tenant side. We could have taken the landlord side, but we took the tenant side, and we sit there and fight to the best deal for the tenant. And then we also have we don't care which owner we bring them to. We want to get the best deal. And let me tell you, a number of times I'll tell a tenant, this is a difficult landlord to deal with. Maybe a lower price, and maybe you want to be here. And I did a number of deals where tenants took lower prices, even though it was a difficult landlord, and they've been happy. And one tenant has been in the space in the same building for over 38 years and has never had a problem with that landlord, where other people will knock him. His loss factors were lower, his deal was better, and that's basically what my job is. So we run this like a family business. I hear everyone's personal stories. I try to be there for everybody. I still enjoy coming to the office. I'm here 5 days a week. I don't sleep here anymore, which I never did. But I try to get out by 6 o'clock, and I leave the house at 6:30 in the morning and get here, and just try to do the best I can for everybody. It's a team, and what's a little unique about our firm is that everyone likes each other. People will give people ideas. We have 2 meetings a week where one is a space and market meeting where we go in the conference room and I talk about all the things going on out there in the industry, whether it's a new building going up, whether it's a landlord that's in default, or whether it's something happening in the financials that are markets that are affecting all real estate people. And then the other meeting is we give a training class, which again, mandatory for the younger brokers. A number of the older brokers don't of course attend anymore, but we try to train you, tell you, how to measure space, how to explain space. Don't hold anything back. If there's a negative, tell the negative. We try to give people how to be a first-class broker and be honorable out there.
Well said. And we've had the privilege of doing a training session in your office too on some legal leasing issues. So thanks for inviting us in fairly recently. What prompted you to take the path of really building out a firm? You have the skills on your own. You've got a lot of people that you're dealing with, you're training, you've mentored a whole generation or two of young, outstanding brokers. You give very generously of your time, not only generously financially to a lot of great causes, but you're really there for a lot of people. You could have taken the road of just saying, let me work with a couple people, an office manager, do my own deals. Sort of what prompted you to kind of want to develop this whole team and culture and kind of family vibe?
First of all, one of the biggest things you can do for someone is help them how to make a living. It's not giving. Yes, I am the treasurer of a school. I am very involved in many charities, and charity is on top of my list, more important than anything else. Matter of fact, I was negotiating with Larry Silverstein for 2 floors in the World Trade Center, and there was a conflict on the brokerage commission. And I asked Larry, how about if we just gave this to charity? And he said, Norman, I can't do that. So, it's that's my biggest goal is helping people how to make a living. Yes, I'm it's important for the company to be strong and make money, but I'm very happy when I see someone who's out there and maybe they weren't an A student in school, maybe they have a small speech impediment or whatever it is. Try to get them to see, wow, here's an opportunity where you can make a living and have pay for your kids' education and have a nice life. So, and that probably comes from a couple of reasons. My mother was a non-paid employee fundraiser for United Cerebral Palsy, which she gave 50 years. Luckily, she lived to 103. Over 50 years of her time helping kids with cerebral palsy. I also saw, tremendous philanthropy from my grandparents, where my grandfather built many institutions in Brooklyn. So I always said, I want to give back. How do you give back? How do you teach this? So I try to teach that to my brokers, and I feel it's a good feeling. I have that same mentality as Warren Buffett had. I have one house, 2 cars. I don't need, if I want to go to a nice hotel, I go to a nice hotel. I don't need all the extra fringes in life. To me, again, helping someone get a high school education, helping someone get into uh, pay for their grammar school education. Those are the important things to me in life, not uh, not to have something material. Uh,
Yeah, I think your philosophy, I think you heard it, you articulated it once, just always look forward. Look forward all the time, not to the left, not to the right. Don't look back. And it's driven by your upbringing. I mean, let's face it, everybody struggles, but it's just an enormous amount of resilience you need in life to do thousands of leases, which with every one of them on the backs of probably 15 to 20 deals that did not materialize, and to work with tons of different interesting personalities in the city of New York and beyond.
yes,
And yeah,
I will. I will correct myself. By the way, my parents did. I was very successful. My parents did change the will back to everyone getting an equal share, and and I take care of the investments for a lot of people. I oversee a lot of different trusts and stuff where people suddenly said, Norman, I want you to be the trustee for my kids or something like that. So it's um, you never know where your life is going to be. If you don't have to be the smartest person. I will say what's so remarkable is that on the computer, there's a function called read out loud. And so my reading is not great, but I can read a lease and I can put it into Word and I can read it out loud as fast as I want to read it, or a commission agreement. And I also learned something when the school I am, we had a Israeli night, and Israel came out with a thing called Orcam Read, and it's a small device the size of just like almost like 5 times the size of a pen, and you could point it to any page, and it'll read it to you as fast as you want it to read it to you. So I go through the Wall Street Journal, the whole entire journal, and reading it with this little device that reads out loud, clear as could be, and it's just an amazing device. So today, even if you have some learning disabilities, you can be a superstar out there. The whole thing is to try to be yourself, be honest, and always think. I always say to someone, "There's a tree in front of me, but I can see behind the tree." So when you have like me being a little bit dyslexic, you see things that other people don't see because you had to fight so hard to get to every step of your life. And thank God I haven't had too many setbacks.
thank God. And if you're in a training session with some of your brokers, and you have some really fabulous brokers, many of which who I've met and have dealt with, so you've really been a great mentor to some fabulous people and continue to be. What are kind of those core philosophies? We're hitting on them, but new broker starts and they say, Norman, give me the 10 commandments. Besides being honorable, first class integrity, treat people the right way, be honest, show up. A lot of younger people don't always want to show up. I know you're in their office 5 days a week, which is very anachronistic, but it's becoming a trend again. What are the core philosophies you're laying down in those first few months of somebody who says, I want to make it in brokerage in New York. I want to make it in business. I want to make it in life.
So first of all, you have to find something that you enjoy. If you don't enjoy what you're doing, change your career. Don't sit there and suffer your whole life. I hate my job. I hate the people I work for. I hate coming to work. When a guy says to me, Norman, all I'm doing is thinking about the office all day long. I love this business because it's so entrepreneurial and the sky's the limit. So I try to explain to brokers, you have to understand there's 500 million square feet of space in New York City. With an average of a lease saying 10 years, that means 50 million square feet turnover. And tenants have no idea landlords can't find tenants because they own their property. They don't have a way to go calling people. So they need us. So you as a broker, have to be out there finding those tenants. Now, years ago, I knocked on doors. I made lists and lists and put them on index cards and then filed them for when I had to call people back. And that's how it was done. Today, it's done quite a bit different. You have lists of people, you get their email address, and you send massive email out to them. And if they're in the market, they respond. If they're not in the market, they don't look at the email. Also, I try to keep people going. Once we've done a deal for them, they have a relationship with us. So unfortunately, lease goes by and it's 7 years, 10 years. They don't even remember you anymore. They don't know you got them 10 months of free rent and 15% below the market price of that space. So you got to keep on reinforcing yourself. So I write articles every week to my brokers of like 10 different things going on in the industry. And we pull these out of all these different periodicals. So they need to send these articles to their customers and say, by the way, this is an update. So it reminds them. How this happened with me is that I moved to an advertising agency, and I suddenly saw they took 20% more space. I called the guy, what happened? He said, Norman, I couldn't remember your name. I couldn't find your name. And so I learned that, you got to somehow send out, a monthly newsletter or something giving people an update. It's interesting. I did a deal downtown, and a tenant said, Norman, we haven't spoken. I couldn't remember your name. I put the word real estate in my emails, and your name came up. And they called me up to redo their lease. It was in a Larry Silverstein building downtown. It was like 26,000 square feet. It was like very easy deal for me to do because they want to keep the tenant. Our customer had no idea what they were entitled to. I got them a fabulous deal, and it was good for Larry's building, and it was good for the customer. But you have to have that drive. You have to enjoy what you do. But if you have to get over your hangups. And again, you have to come to the office. In brokerage, you have to be self-motivated. It's like it's not, they're not sitting there waiting for you to call, for them to call you. You have to call them. So you have to come to the office and say, okay, I'm going to make 50 calls today. I'm going to make 30 calls. And you have to work on Fridays. I'm here. This is a Friday. We're doing this. I enjoy coming to the office. I enjoy, the brain stimulation and figuring out problems. You have to enjoy what you do. I mean, you got your weekends, you got your holidays, and you have your vacation time. But you really, you have to enjoy what you do. And the bottom line is have goals for your money. Your money, again, as I said earlier, is not just to have another house and another house and another house. No. How can you help somebody out there, whether you're helping the blind or whether you're helping someone get their education? Because, I do scholarships for a school. And let me tell you, when you see how heartbreaking some of these people are with their problems, you know what you're doing is really great. And there's a lot of people that do a lot of great things out there, and you want to be part of them. You want to be one of those people.
Well said. I know you've also on the investing side, you've been involved by watching your father and then being a syndicator yourself of many, many different investments. And I know we've talked as well where you've really stepped up. Maybe one random investment doesn't do as well as the others. You kind of take it upon yourself personally, make sure that it does. I mean, you've stretched yourself to make sure that your word is your bond, that you show up for people. Maybe you could describe sort of how you balance that side of the business. I know you've got other people with you on that side, and we could touch on the franchise side a little bit perhaps, but you also have to manage the whole brokerage dynamic. So how do you keep it all going in real time and figure out where to spend your time on any given day?
Yeah, so I am a deal, what do you call a deal junkie? You kind of to say it, but a deal. I love doing deals, and again, the money I make, quite a bit goes into my foundation, which again will be a lot bigger when I die, because it's a lot of my money will go into the foundation just for it's for education mostly. That's my biggest role, but I was very lucky to have a father that showed me these investments. And my son came into the business, but he said, "Dad, I can't be a broker. I can't do this negotiating. I feel like I'm lying." And no matter how much I told him, "You're not lying. You're just negotiating to get the best price for a tenant, and you're not lying, but just you have to get the landlord down, and you got the tenant to come up. You got to negotiate." So I was lucky enough that a bunch of properties came in, and we were able to buy these properties at very good profit margin, and he took on that management. I also have two son-in-laws where it became so big on the investment side that they joined. So I do have an arm of the business, which is investing. So my investment arm became really very unique. God put a guy next door to me, a next door neighbor, who moved into the house next door, and we drove him one day, and he says, "I run franchises." And I said, "Well, I do investment deals, which are about 7, 8, 9% return." And he said, "Well, mine are operating businesses, and we make 14, 15% return." So I gave him some money. I did one or two deals with him. And then after that, he said, "Norman," I said, "I'll give you a lot more money." And he said, "Norman, I don't want to raise money for my deals. I love to do the deals, but I don't want to raise the money." And basically, he had me raise the money, and he deals actually turned out to be about an average of about a 25% return. So I was very interested how to keep my customers always in tune with me. You do a lease for someone for 25,000 feet, and there's everybody after that tenant. So I brought my customers into these deals, and I said, "Look, I'll guarantee your money for 2 years. If something goes wrong or you want to get out, I'll give you your money back after 2 years." But when they saw those checks coming in on a quarterly or monthly basis, suddenly I was the best call they ever got. If I called someone, they get rid of all the other calls. Okay, Norman, I'll commit to 50,000. I'll commit to 200,000. I'll commit to 500,000. So I was very lucky, to do these deals. I'll give you one story. What we got a guy who wants to sell 14 shopping centers with a self-liquidating mortgages on all the shopping center, on all the properties. So it was too big for me. So I went to a big real estate family, the Rosen family in the city, and they said, "Oh, Norman, we love this deal." I said, "Well, I don't want to. I want you to take a piece of it because I want your advice, and I like to have partners because we sometimes brainstorm on things." And I put 32 people into this deal, which was a major multi-million-dollar deal in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. And now the people are still getting their 16% return, probably more because we've turned equity back. But it shows you that things can turn out well if you know what you're doing. Again, I have the experience of seeing these things. The operating deals, as I said, 25% return. They got up to a 35% return, and then the partner suddenly said, "Norman, okay, I want to retire, and I'm giving my money, basically away to charity." He said, "My wife has enough. My second family has enough. I'm giving it a lot to give to charity." So I tried to take over whatever I could, and things were liquidated. So I have all these now residential deals that I did with some of the biggest people. And again, I don't put more than too much in any one deal. I always tell people, don't put more than 5% in any one investment, no matter how good it looks, how great it looks. And I'll give you one little story. there was a new project being built in Florida in a beautiful location. And it was a builder was building out these two buildings. One was totally built, beautiful condition, floor to ceiling glass apartments. And my brother flew down. He said he's a physician, but his head's been in real estate his whole life. He said, Norman, the projections are the rents they're getting today are higher than those projections. So we took a big piece of this deal, and then the other building that was being finished, we were renting that at the same time. Interest rates collapsed. Basically, not collapsed, went down, but went berserk. In 4 months, they doubled. That person, who was a very experienced guy, couldn't lock in the interest rates. Now we're sitting with, what should we do here? No one's getting a return on their money. Yes, the place is totally occupied, but it's a nightmare. So as Aaron was mentioning, yes, I did have a capital call and money had to be put up, and I put up all the money for all my 37 investors. So I wouldn't have to tell people you have to contribute this or that. I said, I'll lay out the money interest free. But what happens is sometimes things don't work out. So never, ever, no matter how something looks good, don't ever put more than 5% of your net worth in any one deal. That's been always my policy. That was something I made up, just basically listening to, people like Warren Buffett, who said, I made many mistakes and I lost plenty of money. And but the good ones were so good that they made up for anything that was bad. I mean, I remember one person telling me, Norman, we lost this deal. This turned out to be a disaster. And I said, how about the other 14 deals you're in? So yes, I'm in over 100 investments in 27 states, 30 states. And I'd say 90% are doing great, but 10% are really lacking. And it's all because of that hiccup we had out there during the interest rate debacle.
Well said. You've got a lot going on and you're running and gunning every day. I love it. Love the vibe and energy in the office. How about just a snapshot of what's going on today? I mean, you're in a tried and true business. What's really cool about brokerage is its relationships and knowledge and integrity, which you combine beautifully. Technology's coming in, but it's hard to have technology replace human interaction and doing tours and the like and having off-market knowledge. But what do you think is going to be the most critical element of success in the next 1 to 5 years beyond the normal sort of tried and true items we've already been discussing? How do you think the new normal is going to shake out with technology changing everything, markets changing? What's exciting for you and what's sort of scary today?
Years ago, when we did a survey, just to give you an idea how difficult it was, we had 20 books in the office. One was Madison Avenue, Fifth Avenue, Park Avenue. Then we had books that were cross streets. Then we had books that were by landlord. So when you did a survey for someone, I need 10,000 feet and I'd like to be between Fifth Avenue or Sixth Avenue and Park Avenue, between 50th and 60th Street, we had to go through 10 books to look at all those listings. We also had to have a person here that would get, the mailman would come with a sack of mail every month, every week with new listings. So we'd have to have a person just updating those listings, stamping them in when it came in, taking out the old listings for those buildings. And like there used to be a firm called Cross and Brown. They'd send out their own book of the listings. So you'd have to know that they had 622 Fifth Avenue, that they had 292 Madison. You'd have to know all these different places. Today, it is so much easier. You go into CoStar, you could put in a north boundary, a south boundary, an east and a west boundary. You put the price range, you put everything in here, and then you push a button and it gave you all the different spaces. But a smart broker will also sit there and call individual buildings. Okay, you know what? This building shows nothing here. I'm going to call, 500 Fifth Avenue. I'm going to call One Penn Plaza. I'm going to actually call those buildings because that's a good building in that area. But a good broker looks at the spaces. Like, Aaron, you say you need 10,000 feet. I'm not going to throw you all these spaces. I'm going to go look at those spaces. Now, when you're in the business a long time, you know what every space in One Penn Plaza looks like. You know it's a center core building. You know that there's a corridor going around the entire outside of the building. Does it face water views or does it face city views? So you basically, you do your homework and you get better and better. Like I do preview almost every space I show to a tenant, but a lot of buildings, if I'm showing something in the Empire State Building, I know I'm on the 32nd floor, I'm getting panoramic views from everywhere I look. I know I'm getting, 7 or 8 or 10 windowed offices, corner offices on every floor. I don't need to go and preview that. What is also simple again is that all of these spaces, they have a tour on the computer. I guess the hardest part is, you have to hear someone's requirement and be able to say what would be good for them. So you go to the doctor and you go and say, look, I'm having some pains in my chin. And he suddenly says, he diagnosed you. So the broker is the doctor. We hear your situation and we got to give you the best advice. And sometimes it's saying, I got to show you something 2 blocks further north. I have to show you something on the further west. And I can tell you that I've done at least 10 deals where I've been in someone's office and said, can you look at the space right now? I have something right now that I think would be ideal. And in those tenants, I've shown one piece of space, one location, because it was so, it was pinpointed. But the only way you get this is that you put your time in, you see the spaces, you know the market, you know who the landlords are, you know who's flexible, who can build, who can't build, and you know your customer. Like we're doing a lease now for a law firm, and he was very sensitive on the security deposit. He also didn't want to deal with a letter of credit. We got him a 3-month cash deposit. And unfortunately, we were dealing on a 3rd Avenue building, which the landlord was being ridiculous. And now we're putting him on Madison Avenue with a much better deal, much cheaper deal. And it just, the tenant said, I'm listening to you. Let me see what you're saying. And you have to trust him. So when you go to that doctor, he's the professional. When you go to your accountant, he does your taxes. You go to one accountant, one doctor. So you really need to hire one broker that you know is going to really hustle for you and knows what they're doing. And that's what we try to train our people here, that they are smart out there and that they work.
Well said, Norman. We've covered a lot. I don't want to keep you all day. I want to thank you for making the time. I always learn from you when we hang out on life, on real estate, on charitable items and communal work. You're really just, what do they call it, hitting for the triple crown, if you will. You're doing it all. You're very humble about what you've done. And I know you make time for everybody, which is incredible. So I guess we'll wrap here. I continue to be close with you and follow what you're doing. And if people want to look you up, obviously we're going to share all your information. And you've really built an incredible name for yourself, which is predicated on all the right pillars you want to be associated with. So amazing work.
Well, Aaron, I have to tell you that dealing with you has always been first class and smart, very smart, and very, you've helped me bring the deals making them happen. And, when there's a problem, you'll handle it or I'll handle it. So I have to say thank you and for, who you are and your abilities to help us.
Well, Norman, I appreciate you so much. And with that, we'll wrap. And thank you again so much. Thank you for joining the Dealmaker's Edge. Don't forget to follow us on your favorite podcast platform. And please give us a 5-star rating so more people can follow the conversation.